Hello, everybody. Today we're going to be doing another extra special read-along thanks to Bookwalker and J-Novel Club. So today we're going to be reading something that's also new to me. The previous read-alongs have all been things that I had read before or had seen a few episodes of before, but today's is brand new to me as well, so we'll be going on this adventure together. It's Kokoro Connect, Volume 1. We'll be reading the first chapter of Kokoro Connect. If you'd like to read ahead or pick up where we left off, you can use my code LEMON, that's L-E-M-O-N, over on Bookwalker to get 600 yen off of your purchase. That's not limited to Kokoro Connect. You could also read Slayers or anything else that J-Novel Club publishes or anything else on Bookwalker. But of course, personally, I'd recommend you picking up where we left off, Kokoro Connect. So let me get reading. Right here, a little about section on the ebook to give you an idea. The lives of the Cultural Research Club members are turned upside down when they suddenly and inexplicably start swapping bodies with each other. Boundaries are crossed and dark secrets come to light that threaten to destroy their friendship. So this one is a romantic comedy that's also supernatural. All right, let's jump into it. We got the cover here and the inside page. And then our first full illustration. Decent setup, but your punchline sucked ass. I'm telling ya, me and Yui switched bodies, just like in the manga. Ah! So we got what? Yui here, and I'm assuming it's going to be Aoki saying that. And we got Nagase, Inaba, and Yaegashi. Okay, we'll try to remember those cute faces. These are other days that I'm assuming aren't going to be covered in our first chapter, so I'll leave those to you guys to look at. Let's get into it. Chapter 1. By the time we realized it had already begun. September, the month in which the vast majority of Japanese high school students are dislodged from the surreal fantasy that is summer vacation and promptly sent hurtling back into the real world. And for the most part, the students of Yamabushi High School were no exception. Situated in a rapidly growing suburban city, Yamabushi offered a more relaxed learning environment while maintaining a proven track record of graduates each year. But the start of September was when the annual cultural festival took place, and as a result, a certain light-hearted vibe would persist to the school until the festivities had ended. Then, mid-month, when the last lingering trace of the event finally faded, Yamabushi High School would return to business as usual, i.e., the same cheerful, lively antics you'd expect from any other school. Yaegashi Taichi was one of many students who enjoyed this casual environment. Or at least he should have been. After successfully surviving all the way through 6th period without falling asleep once, Taichi's next task for the day was to clean the restroom with the rest of his assigned group. After that, his destination would be the clubroom. He stepped out of Class 1C, located in the East Wing, then traveled through the North Wing to the 4th-story rec hall, a rickety building that needed some serious earthquake retrofitting before it fell apart, or so the rumor mill liked to claim. Taichi's clubroom was located on the top floor. Naturally, the rec hall wasn't outfitted with an elevator, so his only option was a long climb up the stairs. Yes, the 4th floor was home to the Cultural Research Club, or CRC for short. They had been saddled with the school's least popular location. Undesirable only because lazy teenagers cared about avoiding stairs more than natural light or a nice view, for good reason. The club was only recently established this year, and by a group of 5 first-year students at that. In other words, they were the lowest rung club on the ladder. The name Cultural Research Club would indicate they spent their days exhaustively documenting traditions from every corner of the world. On paper, anyway. By the time Taichi arrived on the 4th floor, he was a bit out of breath. There, taped on the door of room 401, was a single sheet of A4-sized printer paper bearing the words, Cultural Research Club. Taichi grabbed the handle and opened the door. A cool breeze blew in from the open window, brushing against his cheek and ruffling his hair. The 4th floor was rather airy and light, which made for a mainly pleasant afternoon. Then he noticed that one person had arrived ahead of him. In the center of the room sat 2 long desks positioned side by side. There, at one corner, sat Inaba Himeko, vice president of the CRC, typing away in front of a laptop. "Whoa, are you the only one here?" "Congrats, your eyes work," Inaba answered flatly, without so much as a glance in his direction. For a girl, her voice was rather deep and commanding. Hey, relatable content. Taichi took a seat in front of the... Am I allowed to say that about myself? I don't know. Taichi took a seat in the folding chair across the table from her. Then, finally, she looked up at him for the first time. Her glossy, jet-black hair hung straight to her shoulders, not a single strand out of place. The sort of style that would look great paired with a kimono. Taichi liked to imagine. Her large almond-shaped eyes and ridiculously long eyelashes afforded her an air of mystery unbefitting of her youth. At first glance, she looked far too mature for a first-year high school student. Coupled with her aloof personality, it made her virtually unapproachable. Got a topic ready for your article in this month's issue of Culture Bulletin? Yep. Now we just need to make sure it meets the length requirements and give it a quick editing pass. So you know, it's titled A History of Pro Wrestling as Depicted Through Styles of Brainbuster. See, in Japan, a brainbuster is normally done by slamming the opponent in the back, but originally the move was performed by dropping them on their head. Zip it. You're the one who asked. All I wanted to know was whether you had a topic, yes or no. I never asked you to go into detail about it. Frankly, I couldn't care less. Man, do you always have to be so blunt? Like, would it kill you to try phrasing things a little nicer, starting now? Sitting down, the two of them were at an even eye level. Considering Taichi was of average height for a guy his age, one might deduce that Inaba's sitting height was above average, but this was not the case. Rather, it was her impeccable sitting posture that afforded her the extra stature. She sat up straight. Taichi often wondered if she was smuggling steel rebarb under her uniform. That said, Inaba was indeed tall and leggy for the average high school girl. Her body was perhaps described as slim and angular. Just then, the door opened with a bang and a cheerful voice rang out. "Sup, guys? Sorry I'm late." A dazzling smile lit up the room, radiating warmth to all four corners. That single smile was all it took to make Taichi feel fuzzy inside. Wait, huh? Is it just the two of you here? The president of CRC, Nagase Iori, tilted her head as she spoke. As it happened, Taichi, Nagase, and Inaba were all fellow classmates in 1C. Aw, rats! I ran all the way up those stairs for nothing. As she grumbled, Nagase threw herself down onto the black three-seater sofa positioned on the far side of the room. Shifting onto one side, she propped her head up and sprawled her legs wide like she was a middle-aged man wasting his weekend watching TV. Her breathing was notably relaxed for someone who claimed to have just run up 4 flights of stairs. "Iori, watch your skirt. We can see your bike shorts," Inaba pointed out dryly. "And who cares?" Nagase replied, knowingly flaunting her perfect, slender legs. She patted her thighs, seemingly unconcerned with what might have been on display. "You do realize I'm here too, right?" Taichi asked. "It'll cost you 120 yen per peek, chump." "I have to pay, although that's actually a pretty reasonable price." "Taichi, I know you're joking, but that's the kind of thing a literal sex offender would say. Cool your jets," Inaba retorted. Nagase snickered and sat upright. She was a pretty girl with large, bright eyes and a well-defined nose and a slightly round face. Her porcelain skin was clear and healthy without a trace of makeup to be seen, and her dark, silky, shoulder-length hair was tied up in a lazy ponytail. Her style was plain and practical, but this actually seemed to work in her favor, bringing out her natural, innocent charm. Changing the subject, Nagase, "What are you doing for your next article?" Taichi asked. To be honest, I've been doing a lot of thinking about what the cultural bulletin is really missing, you know? And? Here's my professional opinion. Inaban's got us covered on the scandals, but we've got ourselves a dire lack of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Nobody is looking at the culture bulletin like it's some goddamn gossip rag, and we're not supposed to cover scandals in the first place. In the previous issue of the Culture Bulletin, the Culture Festival Special Edition, Inaba had published an article regarding 2 teachers that had entered a more-than-coworker relationship. She casually failed to mention how she obtained this information. In the end, this year's Culture Festival saw the bulletin rise to unexpected public acclaim, gaining far more attention than any of the scheduled events, helping to spread a festive mood throughout the school, and eventually resulting in said teacher publicly acknowledging their feelings for each other during the bonfire dance. Ooh. At that point, the cheer was contagious. The 2 teachers had this blessing of the entire student body and the rest of the faculty. This was all well and good, of course, but over time the entire school grew painfully aware of how supremely awkward it would be if they were to break up after all of that, a fear that continued to persist to this day. That kind of thing is for festivals only. As it stands, I have no plans to publish that kind of stuff on the regular. I mean, you know me. I hate divulging info as it is. Only in moderation. You get me? Inaba Himiko's 2 favorite hobbies were information gathering and analysis. She was not, however, keen on sharing her findings with others. As for what she did with that information, Taichi was dying to know. Okay, fine. With moderation in mind, I say we try for something sexy this time around, Nagase declared, pointing her index finger in the air. I can't write something like that. I'm a delicate flower, Inaba shot back, looking neither delicate nor flowery. No, I'll write the article. All I need you to do is pose for a couple of racy photos. Hell no. Why should I give these dudes more material for their spank banks? Inaba, I gotta admit, I'm a little concerned about what sort of photos you're imagining we can get away with printing in a school-sanctioned newspaper, Taichi muttered, knowing they probably weren't listening. Judging from her reaction, she must have jumped straight to an X-rated conclusion. Delicate flower indeed. I mean, come on, Iori. You're the pretty one here. Don't you think you're the one who ought to do it? Inaba asked, as though she'd just hit upon a genius idea. No, I'm the girl next door type. Nobody wants to see me naked. I might be cute, but when it comes to raw sex appeal, that's all you, Inaban. Oh God, they're already assuming they have to get naked for this. While Nagase's unpretentious style suggested she didn't care for her appearance, it turned out she actually had a solid understanding of her own strengths. Perhaps her no-makeup policy was actually a calculated choice in order to make her stand out from the crowd. Realistically, though, she probably just didn't care. I get where you're coming from, I really do. That said, I can't imagine guys our age give a shit about sex appeal. Ask any dude you know, and he'd probably say he prefers the sweet and innocent type, Inaba argued. No way. Teenage boys in our generation are all about sophisticated seduction. That's what my gut tells me. Your gut. Right, Taichi muttered under his breath. At that, the two girls whirled around to face him. Aha! Come to think of it, we have one such teenage boy right here. Taichi, which would you prefer? Inaba asked. Yeah, Taichi, if you had to choose, who would you rather see naked, me or Inaban? What a loaded question. But Taichi knew he had no choice but to give them some kind of answer. He closed his eyes for a moment to ponder it, then said, well, if I'm being asked to represent the entire male population at Yamaboshi High, the answer would be both. 3:35 p.m. Yaigashi Taichi ordered 2 female club members to take off their clothing. Did you get all that, Inaban? Nakase cut in. Of course. Now we have the perfect editorial note for this month's issue. Inaba smirked as her fingers flew across the keyboard. Well, I can't exactly argue when I did technically say it. Taichi slumped his shoulders in defeat. He knew he couldn't win against them, no matter how hard he tried. Sadly, there was no beating the established power structure in the CRC. 30 minutes ticked by as Nagase read some manga, Inaba continued to work on her laptop, and Taichi studied for the next day's lesson. There was supposed to be a scheduled club meeting today, but the last 2 members had yet to show up. Taichi's pen fell still. Come to think of it, Aoki was acting kind of weird in gym class earlier today, he muttered to himself, not expecting much in the way of a response. Unlike Taichi, Aoki was in class 1A, but that didn't mean they never saw each other. Classes 1A and 1C shared a joint gym class. Inaba straightened up and shot Taichi a questioning look. Now that you mention it, Yui wasn't acting like herself at all either. Yeah? Do you think something's going on with them? Maybe Aoki's aggressive courting finally paid off or something. Ha! No, that can't be it. The way things stand, those two will never get together. Not until that dipshit realizes where he's going wrong. At that, the door quietly slid open and the subjects of their conversation stumbled into the room. Aoki Yoshifumi and Kiriyama Yui. Aoki was a lanky youth with medium-length wavy hair. Personality-wise, he was either a laid-back, easygoing dork or a brainless moron, depending on how you looked at him. Kiriyama wore her hair long, shiny brown strands that could sometimes look red under the right light, though it was her natural color. Beneath her shapely brows sat a pair of defiant, upturned eyes. Though she was petite in stature, her body was far from undeveloped. Her muscular limbs hinted at a regular exercise routine and gave her an air of vibrant energy. As one might expect at first glance, the two of them were fairly cheerful people, usually. And yet, for some reason, today the two seemed completely miserable, exhausted even. Taichi, Nagase, and Inaba all moved to one side of the table as Aoki and Kiriyama took their seats on the other side. So, what's going on with you two? Nagase asked, taking the initiative to break the oppressive silence. Well, I do want to tell you, but I'm kind of not sure how, Aoki replied hesitantly, scratching his head. He typically wore his uniform a little loosely, but today he was a downright mess. Next to him, Kiriyama was staring down at the corner of the table, absently playing with her lock of hair. Seriously, guys, what happened? I can tell something's on your mind, so just talk to us about it. Let us help you, Taichi urged. Thanks, dude, for real. Okay, here we go. I'm going to explain everything. It's just, we both agreed we were going to tell you, but now that we're here, it's kind of scary. Seriously, though, it takes a lot of guts to tell you when I'm about to just spit it out already, Inaba snapped, interrupting him. Right. Aoki squeaked, nodding. Inaba had no patience for shenanigans. Aoki took a deep breath, then looked over at Kiriyama for confirmation. Kiriyama grimaced and nodded. With her blessing, Aoki began to speak. All right, guys, the truth is, last night, the room went dead silent as everybody waited with bated breath. Aoki let the silence hang in the air for a moment. Then, finally, he screamed, "We switched bodies!" What? Inaba and Taichi asked in unison. Huh? Nagase faltered. The three of them were completely baffled. I'm telling you, me and Yui switched bodies, just like in a manga. Oh, nice karate chop, Taichi remarked, genuinely impressed at the speed and accuracy with which Inaba dealt Aoki his punishment. What the heck was that for, Inaba-chan? Decent setup, but your punchline sucked ass. No, I swear, it's not a joke. I'm like totally dead serious here, dude. Honestly, I'm more stunned by the fact that Inaba's willing to hit people who make bad jokes, Taichi mused aloud. So, if you guys swapped bodies, then does that mean you're actually Yui? You still look and sound as dumb as ever, though. Swapped bodies, as in past tense. We're back to normal now. And Iori-chan, could you maybe not gut me like that? Didn't anyone ever teach you that matter-of-fact comments hurt the most? Using wide, exaggerated gestures, Aoki recounted the tale of trading bodies with Kiriyama, desperate to convince them that he was telling the truth. It was clear that he wasn't joking, but everything he said was so preposterous, it left Taichi and the others at a complete loss. All right, that's enough from you. Good grief, Yui. Do you have anything you'd like to say regarding Aoki's claim? In a knowing Inaba asked Kiriyama, who had yet to say a single word on the subject. Kiriyama stared at the ground, clutching her hair, and shook her head. The chestnut-colored strands grew more and more frazzled with her agitation until she finally opened her mouth to speak. He has to be lying. That can't have been real. I mean, it totally doesn't make sense. I was Aoki and he was me? Yeah, no way. There's like no way. Her voice grew louder and louder until eventually she jumped to her feet. I'm telling you, it was all just a bad dream. Then she shifted into a fighting stance that would have looked right at home on the cover of Street Fighter. I don't believe in paranormal stuff. There's nothing good old science can't explain. Yes, I've made a decision. Aoki, leaving me out of your creepy fantasies? Body swapping? Ha! That trope fell out of fashion years ago. Are you seriously turning on me right now? Didn't we just agree that it was real life? It was temporary insanity. I can't be held accountable for my actions. I don't exactly follow, but I do get the feeling this is an incredibly dramatic betrayal, Taichi remarked, knowing his comment was unnecessary. You seriously think that was just a dream? You're darn right I do. It was just an overly lifelike dream. Now come on, Aoki, wake up already. By this point, Kiriyama was so worked up she was practically having a manic episode. So you're just telling me we had the exact same dream where we switched bodies at the exact same time? And we both somehow managed to dream about each other's rooms with pinpoint accuracy, even though we've never been there before? And the things I moved around in the dream magically also got moved around in real life? Why not? Sometimes a lot of small coincidences happen at the same time. Call it a miracle. Sure, and you know what else would be a miracle? Me and you switching bodies. Of all people, why with you? Kiriyama howled. Well, it's probably fate or whatever, ties from a past life or something. Honestly, at this point, you might as well just go out with me already. What kind of leap in logic is that? Taichi retorted, though neither of them appeared to have heard him. This is why I can't stand you, Kiriyama shuddered and backed away into a corner. So which is it, you two? I don't care if this is some weird fantasy or delusion or whatever. Just tell us what happened, Inaba muttered. She sounded well and truly fed up. We don't need to talk about it, Inaba. Aoki and I never switched. It never happened. I could maybe see it happening with Iori, but never with Aoki. Absolutely not. Not on your life denied. That creep is just making stuff up about me. Kiriyama wailed as she threw her arms around Nagase. There, Nagase cooed, stroking Kiriyama's back as though she were a particularly rambunctious puppy. Wait, what? So you refuse to accept it just because it happened with me? Aoki's shoulders slumped. Hang in there, buddy, Taichi said, clapping him on the shoulder. He still didn't understand what was going on, but he could empathize, at least. As for whether Aoki and Kiriyama did or didn't switch bodies, the debate went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Eventually, Taichi and Nagase started their own running commentary on the argument, pondering whether it might simply have been a symptom of food poisoning or something, until Inaba finally snapped. Enough! All of you, chill the fuck out and go home! With that, the regularly scheduled meeting was officially postponed. Chapter 2. But if you'd like to read ahead or pick up where we left off, you can use my code LEMON, that's LEMON, over on Bookwalker to get 600 yen off of your purchase. That's not limited to Kokoro Connect. You could also read Slayers, or anything else the J-Novel Club publishes, or anything else on Bookwalker, but of course, personally, I'd recommend you picking up where we left off, Kokoro Connect. The next day, the members of the CRC gathered in the rec hall room 401 in order to hold the meeting that should have happened the day before. Naturally, Yaegashi Taichi was among them. The 5 of them had already taken their seats at the table. Today, Aoki Yoshifumi and Kiriyama Yui seemed to be a little tense, but otherwise quiet. Personally, Taichi had made it a point to not bring up what had happened yesterday, as it seemed like a sore subject. An awkward silence hung in the air. But this seemed to matter little to Vice President Inaba Himeko, who started the meeting without further ado. Now then, let's begin. First order of business. Oh crap! I left something in the classroom, Nagase Iori blurted out, bringing the meeting right back to a screeching halt. I want to get this shit done today. Don't kill my momentum here, Inaba snapped. Poor Inaban. Better luck next time. You do realize it's your fault, right? Yeah. Anyway, Inaban, is it cool if I go grab my stuff? Nagase asked innocently, a sweet smile on her face. Her ponytail almost seemed to be bouncing of its own accord, though obviously that wasn't actually the case. Can it wait? Fine, go get it. Yes, sir! Do I look like a sir to you? And she's not listening. Nagase dashed out of the club room before Inaba could even finish her sentence. She sure knows how to get your goat. Kiriyama snickered. It was the first time she'd smiled that day. I wouldn't go that far. She's definitely a handful, though, Inaba muttered with a sigh. With that, the tension in the room seemed to fade. Once the heavy mood had cleared, Aoki started telling his usual stupid jokes, with Kiriyama and Taichi calling him out on his awful punchlines. Bit by bit, the club room was regaining its usual cheer. Problem is, I can never tell if she's doing it on purpose, Taichi heard Inaba mumble to herself. Just as she finished, everything went dark. The next thing he knew, the world had tilted sideways. No, wait, he was the one tilted sideways. Specifically, his head. That made more sense. He quickly realized he was bent over his desk, his cheek pressed to the cool plastic. He pushed himself upright and looked around. This was not the club room. He was standing in an empty classroom. A wave of dizziness rushed over him, and he quickly grabbed the desk for support. Something felt very off. Was it just the dizziness? No, it had been more than that. Just moments prior, he'd been up on the 4th floor of the rec hall in the CRC club room. That was much a fact. Hell, he'd been in the middle of a conversation with Inaba, but now, mysteriously, he was standing in a classroom? How? Taichi looked around the room, trying to get his bearings. The position of the desks, the messages on the bulletin board, the writing on the chalkboard, the little bookshelf in the corner, all of it was keenly familiar. This was Class 1C, Taichi's classroom. And there was no possible way he could have walked all the way down here in the span of a few measly seconds. Goosebumps pricked up over his arms and a shudder ran down his spine. Had he teleported here? Or had he somehow blacked out during the time it took him to get here? Or had he simply dreamed that he'd been in the club room when in fact he was here in the classroom sleeping the entire time? Or maybe none of the above? What the heck is... Huh? Startled, Taichi clapped his hand over his mouth. No way. His hand descended down past his chin. His neck was smooth, like a girl's. He couldn't even feel the bulge of his Adam's apple. For a moment, he attempted to convince himself he'd somehow misheard the voice that had come out of his mouth. No dice. He knew what he'd heard. So why was his voice suddenly soft and sweet, like a girl's? Was he dreaming? Sadly, no. He was definitely awake. No dream on earth could possibly be this realistic. Calm down, calm down, calm down, calm down, calm down, calm down. He silently willed himself not to let his imagination get carried away with him, but it was far too late. In the back of his mind, he recalled everything Aoki had said yesterday. His only option was to check. With that thought, Taichi took a deep breath, exhaled, and slowly lowered his gaze. Pleated cloth wrapped around his waist, hanging to his knees. Specifically, it was an item worn almost exclusively by women, a skirt. Below the skirt was a several centimeter gap of bare leg, followed by a pair of black knee-high socks. The absolute territory, if you would. Taichi groaned softly in a voice that was definitely not his own, though for a moment, technically it was. Next, he checked his upper body, tugging on his clothes with both hands. It was, without a doubt, the Yamaboshi High School uniform, the girl's uniform. His head began to spin. Nothing made sense. Nothing about this made any sense, except a certain glaring possibility that was already present in the back of his mind. Something else, something he'd steadily built up over the course of his entire life, was trying desperately to bury it in a haze. Unfortunately, the cruel reality of the situation was staring Taichi in the face. Something hovered at the edge of his vision. Something that the average guy, or at least Yaegashi Taichi, was certainly not meant to possess. His chest was inflated. And not just a little, no. This was no minor swelling. This was far beyond the scope of what the average male could expect to achieve. This was, almost undoubtedly, a pair of unusually lady-exclusive boobies. I'm gonna guess this is boobies. At this point, he would be forced to accept what he already knew to be true. Assuming they were real, of course. Swallowing hard, Taichi willed himself not to panic. Then, stealing his resolve, he raised both hands, placed them on each of the twin mounds, and squeezed. Once, twice, 3 times, then 4. They were pillowy soft, yet had a firm elasticity, puffing out slightly through the gaps of his fingers. It was unlike anything he had ever felt before. He was in unknown territory. In all 16 years of his life, he had never touched the real deal, and yet somehow he knew. They were, without a shadow of doubt, the real, genuine article, a bona fide pair of boba. With each squeeze, he felt a strange, almost ticklish sensation spread through his body. Evidently, a girl's Evidently, a girl's were not just there for decoration. But before Taichi could finish that thought, the classroom door slid open and someone walked in. Their eyes met. Taichi was already having a hell of a time struggling to process how he'd ended up in these circumstances, so when this new complication rolled in, he failed to react in time. As it happened, the person who walked in was none other than Fujishima Maiko, president of Class 1C, wearing her trademark glasses, her dark hair tied back neatly, and now frozen in mid-stride. They stared at each other wordlessly for a few seconds before Fujishima finally broke the silence. I saw the windows had been left open in here, so I came in to close them. The weather report said it might rain tonight after all. So tell me, Nagase-san, what exactly are you doing? Fujishima had called him Nagase. On the inside, he was definitely still Yaegashi Taichi, but on the outside, he was apparently Nagase Iori. I ask because it looks an awful lot like you're playing with your own breasts. At this, Taichi realized he still had a grip on his chest. Hastily, he relinquished his grip. His brain was lagging under the strain of too much, too fast, but he knew he was in trouble. Fujishima eyed him for a while longer, as if sizing him up. Her eyes glittered behind the lenses of her glasses. Taichi wanted to bolt, but he found himself rooted in the spot. A heavy silence descended between them. Then, at last, Fujishima spoke once more. Want some help with that? What? Whatever it was he had been expecting, it certainly wasn't that. It's better to have someone else do it for you, if you know what I mean. No thanks, I think I'll pass. Well, he didn't actually know what she meant by that. He wasn't sure he wanted to find out. No need to be shy now. I'm pretty good with my hands. Fujishima took a step forward. Fujishima? She was acting different. Normally she was a very Normally, she was the very model of a straight-A student, but now, the look on her face was so uncharacteristically seductive. Taichi was at a total loss. Meanwhile, Fujishima was getting closer, and he was starting to panic. He got the distinct sense that his virginity was in danger, or was it technically Nagase's? He didn't have time to figure that out. Let's just both calm down, Fujishima. I'm sure we can talk this whole thing out. I agree. We can let our bodies do the talking. But bodies? Slow down for a second. What the hell is happening right now? Can you at least give me 5 minutes to figure out what's going on? Help came when the classroom door whipped open and someone came dashing in. Taichi! There stood Yaigashi Taichi, or rather, someone piloting his body. Taichi! Well, I think that this is a darn good stopping point. We're going to call it today, which is about halfway through chapter 2. If you want to pick up where we left off, you can head on over to Bookwalker and pick it up using my coupon LEMON. That is LEMON, where you get 600 yen off of your purchase. So you can pick up right at page 25. Very precarious situation. Whose hands are going to touch whose? Hold on. Whose hands are going to touch whose? Yeah, that word. Thank you guys for joining me for such a fun read along, and thank you again to both Bookwalker and J Novel Club for helping make this one work. I will see you all soon. Bye bye.